The crystalline landscape of Xerxes-9 stretched out like a deadly mirror, its surface glinting with razor-sharp edges that could slice through metal and flesh alike. Zaravin gripped the control panel of her diplomatic shuttle, her four-fingered hands trembling as electrical storms raged outside the view screen. Everything was going wrong. Moments earlier, she had been confident. The mission was supposed to be simple: survey the potential mineral resources of this remote planet and return with comprehensive data. The Kreltheri Federation prided itself on its advanced technology and meticulous planning. No mission was too challenging, no environment too hostile. But Xerxes-9 had other plans. A massive electromagnetic pulse ripped through the shuttle systems. Warning lights flashed everywhere, turning the sleek interior into a chaotic canvas of red and orange. Zaravin's translation implant crackled with static, her communication systems dying one by one. The ship's sophisticated navigation computer began to shut down, its complex circuits overwhelmed by the planet's intense energy field. "No, no, no," she shouted, her native language mixing with desperate translation attempts. Her slim, silver-skinned body pressed against the safety harness as the shuttle began to spin. Outside, massive crystal formations rose like deadly spears, waiting to impale anything that came too close. The Kreltheri were known across the galaxy for their technological superiority. Their ships were supposed to withstand anything. Yet here she was, a promising young researcher, about to become another statistic in the vast, unforgiving universe. A particularly violent tremor shook the shuttle. Zaravin caught a glimpse of the planet's surface, a nightmare landscape of shifting crystals and strange, vibrating ground. The silicon-based lifeforms that inhabited this world were legendary among her people, predators that hunted through seismic vibrations, creatures that could sense the slightest movement and turn it into a deadly trap. Her medical implants began to fail. The emergency backup systems flickered, then died. The temperature inside the shuttle dropped rapidly. Zaravin's breathing became labored, her unique respiratory system struggling against the cold and the increasing lack of oxygen. She thought about her research team back home, about the reports she would never submit, about the discoveries that would remain unknown. The Kreltheri were not a species that celebrated individual loss. They would simply note her name in the diplomatic records and continue their work. The shuttle broke through the first layer of crystal formations. Each impact sent shards flying like deadly glass daggers. Alarms screamed their final warnings before falling silent. Zaravin closed her large, almond-shaped eyes, accepting the inevitable. Some might have called it fate. Others might have seen it as a random collision of impossible circumstances. But as the shuttle tore through the razor-sharp crystal landscape, something unexpected was about to happen. Zaravin didn't know it yet, but her story was far from over. Just before losing consciousness, she saw a final warning flash across her failing view screen. Something about a nearby energy signature. Something different. Something unexpected. Then darkness claimed her. The wreckage of the shuttle came to rest in a valley of crystal spires, steam rising from its damaged hull. Silent. Still. The only movement was the occasional shift of the deadly landscape around it, waiting. Waiting for what? No one could have predicted. Marcus Rodriguez didn't believe in luck. He believed in preparation, hard work, and paying attention to the small details that most people ignored. On this day, those details would save a life he didn't even know existed yet. The modified mining rover hummed quietly across the crystal-laden surface of Xerxes-9, its reinforced treads crushing the sharp geological formations with practiced ease. Marcus was a terraforming engineer, but most people would have called him a professional problem solver. His current contract involved mapping the planet's mineral resources, a job that required more guts than most people had. A sudden spike on his secondary monitoring system caught his attention. Most operators would have dismissed it as interference or a system glitch. But Marcus was not most operators. He zoomed in on the readings, his calloused fingers dancing across the rover's control panel. Something had crashed. Something big. The electromagnetic signature was unlike anything he'd seen before, but the location was clear, about 27 kilometers from his current position, deep in a region most would consider a death trap. Typical, Marcus muttered to himself, a habit from years of working alone. Just when things were getting interesting. The rover's communication system was basic, nothing like the advanced tech used by major corporations or galactic research teams, but it was reliable, dependable, much like Marcus himself. He knew the chances of finding survivors on Xerxes 9 were close to zero. The planet was notorious for its hostile environment. Silicon-based predators, razor-sharp crystal landscapes, electromagnetic storms that could fry advanced technology in seconds. But something told him to investigate. He checked his supplies: limited medical kit, emergency thermal blankets, portable water filtration system, cutting tools, backup power cells. Nothing fancy, but everything carefully chosen. Every item had multiple potential uses, a lesson learned from years of working in extreme environments. The rover's external temperature gauge showed -40 degrees. Harsh, but not impossible. Marcus had worked in worse conditions. He remembered a terraforming project on Proxima b, where temperatures dropped to -80, and survival depended on quick thinking and even quicker repairs. As he navigated through the Crystal Valley, the ground beneath the rover began to vibrate. Seismic predators. The silicon-based creatures that hunted through ground vibrations were getting closer. Most would have turned back. Most would have prioritized their own survival. But Marcus Rodriguez was not most people. He adjusted the rover's electromagnetic field, creating a subtle disruption that would mask his movement. A trick he'd learned during his early days of planetary exploration. A method of survival that defied conventional technological approaches. A crash site came into view. What remained of the shuttle looked more like a collection of shattered crystal and twisted metal than any recognizable spacecraft. Normal rescue protocols would involve waiting for specialized teams, conducting remote scans, assessing risks. Marcus didn't do normal. He saw a slight movement through the damaged hull. Something alive. Something that shouldn't be alive, given the circumstances. His training told him to be cautious. His instinct told him to act. Just another day at the office, he said to himself, a wry smile crossing his weathered face. The rover's external lights cut through the darkness, illuminating the crash site. The silence was absolute, broken only by the occasional shift of crystal formations and the low hum of the rover's engine. Something was about to change. Something unexpected was about to happen, and Marcus Rodriguez was ready for it. The shuttle's hull was a nightmare of twisted metal and shattered crystal. Most rescue teams would have declared the situation hopeless. Marcus Rodriguez saw it as a puzzle waiting to be solved. His rover's external toolkit wasn't designed for delicate rescue operations. It was meant for mining, for breaking through tough planetary surfaces, for survival. But survival, Marcus knew, came in many forms. He pulled out a plasma cutter, a tool typically used for slicing through rock formations, and approached the damaged shuttle with calculated precision. The crystal-infused metal would have destroyed standard cutting tools. But this wasn't a standard tool, and Marcus was far from a standard rescuer. A faint biosignal flickered on his secondary scanner. Barely alive. Alien physiology. Critically wounded. Hang in there, Marcus muttered, though he knew the alien couldn't hear him. The first cut revealed a glimpse of silver-skinned flesh. Zeravin's body was unlike anything he'd seen before. Her respiratory system was clearly different. Multiple small openings instead of a single set of lungs. Her body temperature was dropping fast, and her unique biology complicated any standard medical approach. Marcus didn't panic. Panic was a luxury he couldn't afford. He reached into the emergency medical kit, a collection of supplies he personally curated over years of planetary work. Most of his colleagues laughed at his obsessive preparation. Today, that preparation would save a life. The thermal blankets came first. But these weren't ordinary blankets. Marcus had modified them during a previous mission on an ice planet. Nano-reflective material. adaptive temperature regulation. Designed to work across multiple biological systems, her four-fingered hands twitched, a good sign. Marcus knew he had limited time. The planet's electromagnetic interference would disrupt any long-range communication. The silicon-based predators were getting closer. He could feel the ground's subtle vibrations. Rescue would not come from outside. He was the rescue. He mixed a stabilization compound using minerals from the rover's geological sample kit. Most would call it impossible. Marcus called it problem-solving. A dash of crystalline powder from a local formation, a carefully measured drop of synthetic plasma, a pinch of compressed oxygen compound. The makeshift medical solution would either help or kill her. There was no middle ground. Zeravin's breathing became more regular. Her body temperature began to stabilize. Marcus allowed himself a momentary smile. Not celebration, just recognition of a problem being solved. Outside, the crystal landscape shifted. Predatory vibrations grew more intense. The ground itself seemed alive, hungry. Marcus knew they had limited time before the silicon-based hunters would detect their presence. He began preparing the rover for emergency transport. Every movement was deliberate, every action calculated. Years of working in extreme environments had taught him that survival was about adaptation, not just technology. The alien researcher's eyes flickered, not fully conscious, but alive. Definitely alive. Marcus checked his makeshift medical setup. Improvised, unconventional, but functional. Just like everything else he did. A low rumble began to build beneath the rover. The predators were coming. But Marcus Rodriguez was ready. He always was. The rescue had only just begun. The crystal landscape of Xerxes 9 was alive. Not with plants or animals as most would understand them, but with a predatory intelligence that hunted through vibration and energy. Marcus Rodriguez knew this better than anyone. The silicon-based hunters were approaching. Massive crystalline creatures that moved through the ground like liquid stone, sensing the slightest movement, the smallest heat signature. They were the planet's ultimate predators, creatures that transformed ground vibrations into deadly hunting signals. Zeravin lay semi-conscious in the rover's makeshift medical bay. Her alien physiology was still stabilizing, her silver skin reflecting the harsh internal lights. Marcus knew he had to keep her alive and keep them both undetected. He began to work. The rover's mining equipment wasn't just for show. Marcus had spent years modifying this machine, turning it from a simple planetary survey vehicle into a survival platform. Now, he would turn it into a shield against the planet's most dangerous hunters. First, the electromagnetic disruption. Most would use a standard jamming device. Marcus created something different. He rigged together components from the geological scanner, the communication array, and some spare power cells. The result was an improvised vibration dampener that would mask their heat and movement signatures. The ground began to shake, subtle at first, then more intensely. Outside, massive crystal formations started to shift. They weren't just rocks. They were alive in their own way, sensors for the planet's predatory ecosystem. Marcus had seen them before, but never this close, never this aggressive. He checked Zeravin's vital signs. Her breathing was stabilizing, but she was far from fully conscious. Her alien medical implants were slowly recovering, fighting against the planet's intense electromagnetic interference. A crystal formation the size of a small building began to move. Most would have seen it as impossible. Marcus saw it as a problem to solve. He activated the rover's external shield, another of his custom modifications, a low-frequency energy field that would disrupt the ground's natural vibration patterns. It was a technique he'd developed during a previous mission on a similarly hostile planet. The crystal hunters were getting closer. Marcus worked quickly. He reinforced the rover's external hull with additional mineral-based protective layers, materials he collected during previous planetary surveys. Each layer would absorb and redirect the predator's hunting vibrations. Zeravin's eyes flickered. For a moment, she was almost conscious. Marcus caught a glimpse of her large, almond-shaped eyes, filled with confusion, with fear, with something that looked like hope. The ground outside was now moving like a living ocean. Crystal formations rose and fell. The silicon-based hunters were closing in. Most would have given up. Most would have considered this a suicide mission. But Marcus Rodriguez was not most people. He finished his final modifications. The rover was now more than a machine. It was a fortress, a survival pod, a lifeline in the middle of the most hostile environment imaginable. The crystal hunters reached their position and stopped, confused by the electromagnetic disruption. Unable to penetrate the carefully constructed defenses, Marcus had turned the planet's own hunting mechanism against itself. He allowed himself a small smile. Just another day at the office. Outside, the crystal landscape continued to shift and move. But inside the rover, they were safe. For now, Zaravin drifted between consciousness and dreams. The rover's interior hummed with a subtle mechanical rhythm, different from the sterile environments of Kreltheri medical facilities. Everything felt strange, different. Her first clear thought was of survival. Her second was confusion. Slowly, she focused on the human working nearby. Marcus Rodriguez didn't look like the heroes in Kreltheri stories. He was not tall or perfectly muscled. His hands were rough, covered in small scars. Lines of experience marked his face, a roadmap of survival that no genetic enhancement could replicate. "You're awake," Marcus said. Not a question, a simple statement. His voice was different from the smooth communication protocols she was used to. It was rough, real, authentic. Zaravin tried to speak, but her translator implant was still recovering. Marcus noticed her struggle and pulled out a small device. Not high-tech, not sleek, just functional. "Universal translator," he explained. "Picked it up on my last contract. Works most of the time." Most of the time. A phrase that would never be used by Kreltheri technology specialists. Their systems worked perfectly, always, or they were replaced. As her strength returned, Zaravin began to understand more. Marcus was not a military rescue operator, not a professional diplomat. He was a terraforming engineer, someone who transformed hostile planets into potential homes. "Why did you save me?" she finally asked. Marcus looked surprised by the question, as if saving a life was the most natural thing in the world. "Someone was in trouble," he said simply. "Seemed like they needed help." His file, which Zaravin would later discover, told a more complex story. Born in a small settlement on a colony world, parents were planetary development workers. He had grown up understanding that survival meant adaptation. That technology was a tool, not a solution. He showed her how he had stabilized her using improvised medical techniques, minerals from the planet mixed with emergency medical compounds, thermal regulation systems cobbled together from mining equipment. Each explanation was matter-of-fact, without drama. The Kreltheri had advanced medical technologies that could heal almost any injury, but they required perfect conditions, specialized equipment, controlled environments. Marcus had saved her life with duct tape, mineral compounds, and pure determination. Outside, the crystal landscape continued its deadly dance. The rover's custom defenses kept them safe, a testament to human engineering that defied conventional understanding. Zaravin realized something important. The Kreltheri believed in perfect systems. Humans believed in solving problems, no matter what. "You could have left me," she said. Marcus looked confused. And do what? Ignore someone who needed help. The concept was foreign to her. In Kreltheri society, individual survival took precedence. Rescue missions were calculated, risk-assessed, approved by multiple committees. This human had risked everything on a simple belief that a life was worth saving. As if sensing her thoughts, Marcus returned to adjusting the rover's systems. Another problem to solve. Another challenge to overcome. Zaravin watched him. For the first time, she understood something her people had never comprehended. Humanity was not defined by technology. It was defined by choice. The choice to help. The choice to survive. The choice to care. The Krell rescue ship dropped from hyperspace like a blade of polished silver. Its design was perfection itself. Smooth lines, advanced technology that made most galactic vessels look like primitive toys. Commander Zelnak stood on the bridge, reviewing the mission parameters with clinical precision. Diplomatic shuttle XR-392 crashed on Xerxes 9. The holographic display showed the planet's hostile landscape. Estimated survival probability: 0.03%. No Krell mission had ever failed to recover their personnel. No mission had ever been considered impossible. This mission would be different. The ship's scanners began probing the planet's surface. Advanced technology that could detect a single breath through kilometers of crystalline terrain. But something was interfering with their readings. Something that shouldn't be possible. Anomaly detected, the ship's AI announced. Its voice was perfect, emotionless, precise. Zelnak frowned. Frowning was inefficient, but something about these readings challenged everything he understood about planetary rescue operations. On the planet's surface, Marcus Rodriguez was completely unaware of the approaching ship. He was busy reinforcing the rover's shielding, teaching Zerevin about field repairs and survival techniques. Always have a backup plan, he explained, and then have a backup for your backup plan. Zerevin was listening intently. Her understanding of survival was being completely rewritten. The Krell rescue team's initial approach was textbook precision. Drop pods designed to penetrate any planetary surface, shielding that could withstand extreme conditions, equipment that had never failed a mission. But Xerxes 9 had other plans. As the first drop pod entered the atmosphere, something unexpected happened. The planet's unique electromagnetic field began to interact with their advanced technology in ways no simulation had predicted. Impossible, Zelnak muttered. A rare moment of emotion from a Krell commander. The first pod veered off course. Then the second. Advanced guidance systems became useless against the planet's unpredictable environment. Inside the rover, Marcus noticed the atmospheric changes first. Something's coming, he told Zerevin. Not as a warning, just a statement of fact. The Krell rescue team was about to learn something important about survival. Their third drop pod managed a rough landing about 5 kilometers from Marcus's rover. Standard protocol would involve establishing a secure perimeter, conducting long-range scans, waiting for optimal conditions. But survival rarely follows protocol. A small team emerged from the pod. 4 Krell warriors, each a pinnacle of genetic engineering and technological enhancement. Their armor was a marvel of adaptive technology. Their weapons could neutralize threats before those threats even realized they were targets. They were looking for one thing: their lost researcher. Marcus watched their approach on the rover's external sensors. Zerevin recognized the incoming team's signature. Her people had arrived. They're going to be surprised, Marcus said with a small smile. The crystal landscape began to shift. The silicon-based hunters were getting restless. The rescue team was about to enter a battlefield they didn't understand. On Xerxes 9, survival was not about technology. It was about adaptation. And humanity had that in abundance. The Krell rescue team approached with calculated precision. 4 warriors, advanced weaponry, adaptive combat armor that could shift molecular structure to match any environmental challenge. They were the best of the best. They were about to meet their match. Zerevin stepped forward, surprising everyone. Her body was still recovering, but her spirit was stronger than ever. Marcus watched from the rover, a mix of caution and curiosity in his eyes. Commander Zelnak was the first to speak. His voice carried the weight of centuries of diplomatic protocol. Researcher Zerevin, explain your current status. Normally, such a statement would be a command. Today, it would become a lesson. I am alive, Zerevin responded, because of him. She pointed to Marcus. The Krell warriors scanned the human. Their advanced systems tried to categorize him. Threat level, technological capability, potential value. Marcus looked like nothing special, a weathered engineer in basic protective gear. But appearances could be deceiving. Zaravin began to tell her story, not in the clinical, detached manner of Krell theory reports, but with emotion, with detail, with humanity. She described the crash, the moment when all hope seemed lost, how Marcus had used nothing more than mining equipment, basic medical supplies, and pure determination to save her life, how he had created electromagnetic shields from spare parts, how he had mixed medical compounds using minerals from the planet itself. The Krell theory listened. Their culture valued information, but they were about to learn something new. Your survival protocols would have left me to die, Zaravin said. It was not an accusation, just a statement of fact. Marcus remained silent, watching, waiting. Commander Zelnak's neural implants were processing the information, calculating, analyzing. But some things couldn't be calculated. Some experiences couldn't be reduced to data points. The crystal landscape around them seemed to shift, as if the planet itself was listening. Zaravin continued her report, but this was no ordinary report. This was a testimony, a revelation. She spoke about human adaptability, about the ability to solve problems without relying on perfect systems, about choosing to help even when there was no logical benefit. The Krell warriors began to understand something profound. Humanity was not about technology. It was about choice. Standard rescue protocols would have calculated the risk, Zaravin explained. Marcus calculated the potential to save a life. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. He wasn't used to being the center of attention. For him, what he had done was simple. Someone needed help. He helped. Commander Zelnak's neural implants were working overtime, processing, analyzing. The data didn't make sense, and yet it was undeniable. A human, with limited technology, had done what the most advanced rescue team in the galaxy could not. Saved a life. The silicon-based predators of Xerxes 9 continued their deadly dance outside. The crystal landscape remained hostile, unchanged. But something had changed. The Krell were about to see humanity differently, and it all started with one simple choice: to help, to survive, to care. The days following the rescue became a journey of understanding. Marcus Rodriguez and Zaravin were an unlikely pair, a human terraforming engineer and an alien researcher brought together by circumstances that defied all probability. Their conversations happened in the quiet moments between survival. Inside the modified mining rover that had become their temporary home, they shared more than just survival tactics. They shared perspectives. In my culture, Zaravin explained, her translation device converting her alien language, individual achievement is measured by technological precision. Success is a calculated outcome. Marcus listened, cleaning a piece of equipment with the same careful attention he gave to everything. For us, he responded, success is about what you do for others, how you help when no one's watching. The Krell rescue team maintained a careful distance. They were monitoring, observing, trying to understand. Their advanced sensors captured every conversation, every moment of interaction. Marcus taught Zaravin about human problem solving, not through complex theories, but through practical examples. How to look at a challenge and see possibilities instead of obstacles. How to use limited resources creatively. Zaravin showed Marcus glimpses of her own culture, the intricate scientific knowledge, the advanced technological understanding that allowed her people to traverse galaxies. But she was learning something more important, the human capacity for compassion. One evening, as the crystal landscape outside shifted like a living entity, Marcus shared a story from his past, about a terraforming mission where his team saved a small colony from environmental collapse. Not because it was efficient, not because it was profitable, simply because it was the right thing to do. Zaravin realized the human choice was a form of intelligence far more complex than any technological system. The Krell commander, Zelnak, watched these interactions with increasing fascination. His neural implants were collecting data that challenged everything he understood about interspecies interactions. Marcus showed Zaravin how he modified equipment, how every tool had multiple potential uses, how survival was about adaptation, not just technology. He demonstrated repair techniques using materials most would consider worthless. "Watch this," he would say, taking something broken and transforming it into something functional. Zaravin began to understand that human innovation was not about perfection, it was about possibility. Their conversations covered everything: planetary exploration, cultural differences, the nature of survival, the meaning of choice. Each dialogue peeled back layers of misunderstanding between their species. The rover became more than a survival pod. It became a bridge between two different ways of understanding the universe. Commander Zelnak's reports grew increasingly complex. What began as a simple rescue mission was becoming something much larger, a potential redefinition of how the Krull theory understood emerging species. Zaravin's medical implants continued to recover. Her body was healing. But something else was changing too: her understanding of life, of survival, of what it meant to truly help another being. Marcus remained typically understated. For him, this was just another mission, another problem to solve, another opportunity to help. But they both knew something significant was happening, a transformation that went beyond individual survival, a connection that transcended technological limitations. Outside, the crystal landscape of Xerxes 9 continued its deadly dance. Indifferent, unchanged. But inside the rover, two beings from different worlds were creating something entirely new: understanding. The Krell Theory Central Research Hub was a marvel of technological precision. Massive crystal-like structures stretched toward the sky, each building a testament to scientific achievement. Perfection in every line, calculation in every design. Zaravin stood before the Grand Council, her report ready to change everything. Her arrival caused a stir. The researchers and diplomats studied her with their advanced neural implants, searching for any deviation from expected protocols. But Zaravin was no longer the researcher who had left on that fateful mission. She was something more. "My report," she began, her voice steady, "is not just about a rescue mission. It is about understanding." The council members remained motionless, waiting, analyzing. She spoke of Marcus Rodriguez, not as a statistical anomaly, not as a technological curiosity, but as a representation of something fundamental about humanity. "Our previous assessments of human capabilities were fundamentally incorrect," Zaravin explained. Her neural translator captured every nuance of her alien language. "Humans are not defined by their technological advancement. They are defined by their choices." Images appeared behind her: the crystal landscape of Xerxes 9, the modified mining rover, Marcus working with limited resources, saving a life that by all calculated probabilities should have been lost. The Council's collective neural network processed the information. Algorithms tried to categorize, to understand. Zaravin continued. She described how Marcus had saved her using nothing more than mining equipment, basic medical supplies, and an unbreakable spirit of determination. How he had created electromagnetic shields from spare parts. How he had mixed medical compounds using minerals from the planet itself. "Survival is not about perfect systems," she said. "It is about adaptability, about choice." Deep within the research hub, something was changing. Subtle at first, then more profoundly. The first diplomatic communique arrived 3 standard galactic cycles later. A simple message that would reshape interspecies relations. Preliminary research suggests significant recalibration of first contact protocols regarding human species required. Marcus Rodriguez would never know about this moment. He was back on another planetary development project, solving problems, helping people, doing what he always did. Zaravin had become more than just a researcher. She had become a bridge, an ambassador of understanding. The Krell Theory began to re-examine everything they knew about emerging species, about survival, about the fundamental nature of intelligence. In meeting rooms and research centers across their vast civilization, a new question began to form. What truly defines intelligence? Is it technological capability, or is it something more? The crystal landscape of their central hub seemed to shift, as if the very environment was considering this new perspective. Marcus would have found this amusing. Just another problem to solve. Another challenge to understand. Somewhere on a distant planet, he was probably doing exactly that. Helping, solving, creating possibilities where others saw only limitations. The universe is a vast and complicated place, full of technologies beyond imagination, filled with species more advanced than humanity could comprehend. But some things remain constant. The choice to help, the courage to care, the ability to see potential where others see only obstacles. Humanity's greatest strength was never its technology. It was its humanity.